Hello artists! In this video, we are going to learn how to paint our sea creatures. If you have used tinfoil anywhere on your sculpture, you're going to want to first paint that. I am going to paint all the tinfoil white so I have a good surface to paint on top of. I used tinfoil on his tail and for his lips, so those are the only areas that I'm going to paint white. We would like a paint that isn't translucent and covers all of the tinfoil, so for this reason we're using acrylic white paint first. Next, you'll want to draw on the surface of your sculpture. You'll want to pull up some reference pictures to use to draw from. Here I found a koi fish that has not only design, but it has different color ideas. Here I'm drawing the scales across the entire body of my fish. I understand that some of you have small fish, so you'll want to draw your scales a little bit smaller. However, keep your scales simple because paint is harder to use, so you don't want small, tiny scales. You'll also want to do other details, like lines on your fins or eyes. If you didn't do a fish, you'll want to look at the details from your reference picture and draw those on your creature. After you have drawn, you'll want to start using a watercolor as your base color for your fish. I like watercolor because it's translucent and so it's not as thick as a watercolor. However, you'll want to mix some acrylic with the watercolor as you paint. As you can see, I'm starting to paint some of the scales in different colors and tones. If you look closely at these scales, they got kind of splotchy. So that is when I grabbed my acrylic paint and I started to add that onto the watercolor in just some areas to cover it better. After I got some details painted, then I went into the base color of the fish, which I wanted to be yellow. So I used a combination of the yellow watercolor with some of the yellow acrylic, and as I painted, I blended in an orange to add some values as I painted. While you paint and your paint is still wet, you'll want to add colors together. Look at your color wheel and choose two colors that are right next to each other. Those colors will always blend well together. This adds depth and value to your work. It also makes your work look less boring and not flat. I started with watercolor and now I'm going to acrylics. The reason I did this is because I want my paint to be more vibrant, so you'll want to use both. Look at the amount of paint that's on the palette that I'm using. There is not a big, gigantic glob of paint. You won't use that much, and you'll end up wasting a lot more, and then we won't have enough paint for everybody. On areas where you use the white acrylic first, I found that acrylics work best on acrylic paint, so don't go in with watercolor on those areas. So here's the first part of my painting process. I haven't painted everything like his whiskers or details like lines or his eyes, but notice how the paint is all over and I have different values, different colors, and I've taken my time.